So, before I get into the topic of tonight's show, something I want to say first. I know it's been like a couple weeks or so, um, but I just wanted to acknowledge and celebrate the life of Matthew Perry. Um, I never got to meet the man personally, but forever, Friends was my favorite comedy TV show, and I watched all of his movies, even ones that I didn't particularly care for. Um, I always found him himself entertaining. He had this like world class snark to his humor and the sarcasm that served him so well, and I feel particularly cheated in a way because I always believed that he would have been a fantastic stand up comedian. And unfortunately, we will never get to see that. So, thank you, Mr. Perry, for all of the humor. Rest in peace. Okay, on to tonight's show. So, this show in the past has been very political, um, primarily having to do with all the Trump bullshit. And I'm not going to get into that tonight. We're setting that aside for the night because I want to talk about something else. Finding the funny. What I mean by this is the best comics, the best comedians find their material in everyday things. Um, Case in point, even though she does quite a bit of writing, the stuff she talks about is kind of everyday stuff, and that would be Eliza Schlesinger, who great comedian in her own right, um, talks about everyday kind of stuff, really. Um, and for her, it's mostly uh, about being a woman and the differences between men and women and differences between being a woman in her 30s versus a woman in her 20s and that kind of stuff. And that's fantastic. It's great. That's what you should do is talk about the stuff that you know, right? And it's also about actually having a sense of humor, which, let's face it, some people out there just don't. They don't have a sense of humor, and it's kind of sad because I think that in part is why the world is the way it is right now. But I'm going to give an example of what I mean by finding the funny. So, recently, uh, I have my dog Nacho. He's 9 years old, and we recently got a puppy named Honey, who is uh, probably about 10 weeks old now, and she is a rambunctious little shit, and always getting into trouble. And the funniest thing happened because it just recently snowed here, not not too long ago. Actually, there's still snow on the ground outside. But the first day that she saw snow, it was her first snow ever. It was funny watching her because she didn't really understand what it was, and she started eating it. And it was the cutest and funniest thing I've seen from her so far. And that's like an everyday thing. I could totally make a bit out of that. I could totally make a bit out of what my dogs do on a daily basis if I felt the need to. It just so happens that me personally, my my comedy is more, I guess you could call it biographical in a way, because the stuff I use is stuff that I either witnessed directly or things that actually happened to me, and I make them funny. And I don't want to get into too much there because a lot of that is actually bits that are going into my future comedy special. No More Ice Cream is the title of it, so keep an eye out for that. And the title will make sense once you hear it. Trust me. Um, so here's how you do this, right? So things happen to us every day, every single day, right? And oftentimes these things happen to us and we don't even really notice it, right? Or if we do notice it, it's just not a big deal and it's brushed aside because you know so many other things are happening in our lives that we have to deal with, you know, going out to pay bills and all that junk, right? Going to work, things like that. But in order to be okay, and this is my opinion, and I know you're thinking, who am I, right? And you're kind of right. But just for those that don't know, that haven't heard me talk about this before, uh, 30 years ago, I was a stand up comedian. And as a stand up comedian, I was on the precipice of doing some pretty big things. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. And the reason it didn't happen is, and if you're at all in comedy or were into comedy back then, you may remember this. Uh, the market was kind of flooded with great comics. And, this is right around the time that a lot of great comics are coming out. You know, people like Dane Cook. This is right around the time that they were all starting to get kind of big, and there was no shortage of comedians. Pauly Shore and um, hell, even Josh Blue, and the list goes on and on. But the point is like it was flooded to the point where a lot of us comedians couldn't get booked anywhere because there was just so much out there available that a lot of us got lost in the shuffle, and then I had to make a decision, you know, and I had to make the heartbreaking decision to kind of give it up and get a quote unquote real job to pay the bills and yada yada. And so what was supposed to be a temporary situation of maybe a year or two ended up being 30 years. but now I'm coming back. I'm getting ready to film my own special as soon as I figure out all the logistics of it, and away we go, right? And I'm like probably a lot of you out there that are considering getting into this field, which means that you're inspired by comedians, right? We all have our inspirations. For me, early on, it was guys like George Carlin and Robin Williams and Billy Crystal, and there were a lot of them back then. Oh yeah, Sam Kinison for sure. Sam and me actually have a little bit of commonality uh, in that, just like Sam, in my comedy, it becomes very apparent that I really don't give a shit. I just don't. I'm I don't know if I'm just wired that way, or if it's like nature versus nurture or whatever. But whatever the case is, I really don't care. And it comes across in my comedy, but it comes across in a funny way. Like I'm not browbeating anybody for the most part, unless you heckle me, and then all bets are off. Sorry about your damn luck. Um, but otherwise, uh, I'm just telling my stories, and these are, like I said, these are things that happen to me, or that I witnessed, like directly. Um, I have a really funny bit that details me and two other comedians in a car, and my buddy was driving, and he has cerebral palsy, and he likes to haul ass down the road, and we were on this freeway, and we got pulled over by a cop, and the cop said, "Excuse me, sir, have you been drinking?" And my friend looks at him and says, "No, I was born this way." Now, I I don't know if I'm gonna put that in a set. I kind of want to, because he hasn't used it, and this guy's been doing comedy for quite a while now, and he hasn't used it. So I may have to use it just to get the story out there. But point is that's the best comedy. It's the stuff that happens around you that you can use, that you can make funny, right? And things happen every single day that if you look at it through uh, that eye of humor, could be great material. Now, of course, not every idea is a winner, right? I've been there. When I was first starting out. This is like back in the '90s. When I was first starting out, you know, I wasn't doing the kind of comedy, first off, that I do today, right? I tell stories that happen to be funny. Back then, it was more like jokes, right? So it was just set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline, right? And that's great. I'm not taking away from it. And some of that style is absolutely fantastic. Good examples of that are Stephen Wright, Cheech and Chong, etc. Right? Those guys are great, but it's just not my style. But I didn't know that there were any other options back then because I was still so new. So, you know, I would get laughs occasionally, but it took a while for me to get to a point where like I knew my stuff was gonna do well, right? Maybe not necessarily quote unquote kill it, but it would do well. I would get some laughs, right? Which, as a comedian, that's the whole thing, right there. That's the whole gig, right? You're trying to get laughs, and if you don't get laughs, then you're either having an off night, or if that off night turns into a couple more nights, maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing. But thing of it is you need to be honest with yourself too. If you're considering getting into comedy, you need to really, at some point, maybe not right away, but at some point, I mean, absolutely give it a shot, right? The worst that's going to happen is you bomb, all right? And sometimes that's a good thing, all right? Because that can illuminate whether or not this is the right choice for you, all right? And it's not for everybody, because if it were for everybody, everybody would be a comedian. And understand also that there is a big difference between somebody who is a comedian and somebody who tells jokes. And there's actually a lot of different factors that go with that, and that's actually a topic for a different show. So, finding the funny is important. In order to find the funny, you already have to have a great sense of humor, right? Because everything has to literally, listen to me, literally everything has the potential to be funny. Because what's funny is humor plus storytelling plus time equals laughs. Okay? Because in another comedian that I've seen on YouTube and stuff by the name of Andrew Rivers, who he's one of the comics that tours with Steve Hofstetter. So if you ever want to find out, watch Steve Hofstetter's stuff on YouTube. It's fantastic. But Andrew Rivers actually said it, and was actually pretty smart. He said that as a comedian, write everything down. Because something that doesn't work now might work in a year or 2 years or 10 years or whatever, right? And if you write something down that doesn't work, you can always polish it too, and make it better and better until it does work. And then, of course, there's also the stuff that doesn't work because it's just shit and it's not ever going to work. But regardless, you need to be honest with yourself about your level of comedy skill also. Me, personally, I don't think that I'll ever be at the level of the greats. I'll never be like a Robin Williams. I'll never be a Sam Kinison or Andrew Dice Clay or George Carlin. Right? I'll never be at that level, but I'll be like that upper middle level. Like people will know my name and they'll laugh at my stuff, but I may not ever be a quote unquote household name. And I'm fine with that because that's not what the dream is, anyways. For me, the whole payoff, other than, actual payment, is making people laugh. That's the whole point. And if you're not in it to make people laugh, then you're in the wrong business, right? Because you can't treat it like a regular job, right? This is something that if you're going to get into it, you need to get into it for the right reasons, or you're just not going to go anywhere with it. All right, you need to go into it with just the intention of making people laugh. The money is just the icing on top, right? And as a stand-up comedian, you're not always getting great money, by the way. Some venues, some clubs are a lot better at that than others are, and this is, par for the course. But you need to be prepared for that, and you need to be honest with yourself. And at the same time, you got to know how to interact with, people in the field, like club managers and booking agents and all that stuff. And so if you can hook up with a comedian that's been in the business for a while that you can learn from, that would definitely be a bonus. But if not, just reach out to booking agents and stuff, and even if you don't get booked anywhere, ask questions. Learn about the business. Don't just think that you're gonna, because everybody has that fantasy that, I'm going to go to this open mic and slay it and somebody will sign me. Yeah, but that shit never happens. Nobody I know of has ever been signed from an open mic. They've gotten other gigs, bigger gigs, where they're either featuring or opening for somebody, or maybe getting time on a regular club stage or something to that effect. But nobody gets signed. You're not going to go from an open mic to a sitcom. That shit doesn't happen, right? So you're going to have to tongue-tied, familiarize yourself with the business. All right. And the best way to do that is go to your local comedy club and talk to comedians, especially those ones that have been doing it for a while, because they actually know the ins and outs of doing what they do. And if nothing else, they'll at least give you a heads up on what the local market, if you will, is like. Alright, so that's my advice is to learn as much as you can from other comedians, from bookers, from club managers, anybody that's willing to talk to you, and find the funny. And that isn't for everybody, right? Everybody thinks that they have a sense of humor, and they do to an extent. But like I said, there's a big difference between somebody who tells jokes and a comedian. And not everybody's a comedian, right? And that's something that you have to kind of figure out, which is why open mics exist, by the way. Open mics isn't for, I mean, it's a byproduct that you're possibly entertaining people. But that's not really what open mics are for. Open mics are for figuring out if this is something you really want to pursue, number one, and figuring out, number two, if you actually have the talent to do it. And the unfortunate reality is that's not everybody. Because if everybody could do it, everybody would do it. You kidding me? Getting paid for talking for an hour every night? Hell yeah. I mean, that's the dream, right? In any case, so learn the business, find the funny, and learn how to write jokes. Learn how to write material. And really the only way you can do that is to surround yourself with other comedians, on a local level, and, you know, listen to them and find out what their process is. And then by finding out what everybody else's writing process is, you can figure out your own. Me, I'm weird in a sense because unlike most comedians travel with like a notepad because they're constantly writing down ideas. And that's a very good thing to do. I, however, am weird in the sense that I don't write shit. I really don't. I don't write anything down. But my comedy's different in the sense that I'm telling stories that have actually happened to me. So it's not like it's something I'm going to forget. You know what I mean? So I don't have to write it down. Right? And if I were to write something down, it wouldn't be the stories themselves. It would be notes to myself on how to be better at delivering those stories. And that's the other thing you have to be aware of, is your delivery. Because timing is everything. Right? And I've got my timing down because I don't rush anything when I'm doing my comedy. I'm not super slow, mind you, but especially when it comes to the punchline, like I like to have a little pause in there. So like example of this, I'll tell you one bit, or actually a part of a bit. I'm angry. I'm the angriest motherfucker you've ever met in your life. You want to know how angry I am? I'm so angry, I get road rage when I'm not on the fucking road. Get out of the way, Grandma! Your shopping cart. See what I did there? I built up, but when I got to the end, I paused a little bit. Alright? And here's why you want to do that, right? You have that little bit of a pause because it builds the tension, because they know that you're going to say something, they don't know what you're going to say. And So when you deliver that punchline, you get people to laugh, and that's the whole fucking point. So, there you have it, folks. That's my words of wisdom, so to speak. And I'm not trying to claim that I'm some great mentor or something. There are people out there that are far better at this kind of shit than I am. Although I would never admit that to them. Because they got big enough egos. Anyways. They see what I mean? That's what I was talking about with the timing. Like if I would have said that differently, exactly what I said, word for word, but said it differently with different timing. But I would never tell them that because they've got big enough egos. Right? See, that didn't get a laugh because there was no anticipation in there. There was no tension. Timing, delivery is everything. Right?
I keep thinking about T&J.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not going to tell that one because that's going in the special. But point is you need to actually have a sense of humor first. And here's how you can tell. Invite like at least 3 friends to listen to you. Like write some material, figure out what your material is going to be, invite like 3 friends over to hear it. If one of your friends laugh but the other 2 don't, you still have some work to do. You need to polish that a bit to make it funnier. If 2 of your 3 friends laugh, you're pretty good. You're almost there. But it could be better. I mean, it's good enough that you could tell that bit in a club or a venue or what have you, and you're probably going to get some laughs. But if you can get all 3 of your friends to laugh, that is a keeper bit. Definitely use that. Because if you could get all 3 of your friends to laugh at something you said, especially if your friends are anything like mine, who are brutally honest and have no problem making me feel like shit.
Again, T&J.
Yes. And but they're honest and it's helpful, right? Like they're not doing it to hurt me. They're doing it to make me better. And they have. And they don't know it yet.
Oh, are you okay with you calling out on it?
But now I'm better than they are.
Seriously, want you to call them out on it. Oh my god, this is gonna be funny.
Hey. At least I didn't kiss a guy.
No! Are you going to tell that one? I thought he said no.
No, I'm not going to tell that one.
And the other one, well, he has, other major...
Yes.
Poor kids.
But I'm not going to get into that whole thing because that's not my story to tell. And I don't want to get sued.
Okay.
having said that, um, I think the most important thing is just to hang out with other comedians, because hanging out with other comedians, you'll get insight into the creative process in and of itself, the writing, and you'll also have uh, built-in, like, constructive criticism surrounding you, because they will let you know when something doesn't work. They will make you feel like shit when it doesn't work, but at least you'll know. Anyways, I hope that helps you on your comedic journey, my young Padawans. Until next time, my pack, my tribe, peace out.